Happy Friday. Welcome to another live reading of Psycho-Cybernetics with the intentions of a mastermind book club. We are on chapter 2, discovering the success mechanism within you. And we are picking up on page 30, right over here. It says, practice exercise number 1. So, I don't know what the exercise entails, but I did just grab a pen and paper really quick because you never know. And I actually don't know where the pen went. Pen. All right. So I hope everyone's enjoying their day today, enjoying their week. Welcome, enjoy. And we're going to jump straight into this exercise today. So it reads, get a new mental picture of yourself. The unhappy, failure-type personality cannot develop a new self-image by pure willpower or by arbitrarily deciding to. There must be some grounds, some justification, some reason for deciding that the old picture of self is in error and that a new picture is appropriate. You cannot merely imagine a new self-image unless you feel that it is based upon truth. Experience has shown that when a person does change his self-image, he has the feeling that for one reason or another, he sees or realizes the truth about himself. I love that part. Okay. The truth in this chapter can set you free of an old, inadequate self-image. If you read it often, think intently about the implications and hammer home its truths to yourself. Science has now confirmed what philosophers, mystics, and other intuitive people have long declared. Every human being has been literally engineered for success by his creator. Every human being has access to a power greater than himself. Amen. This means you. As Emerson has said, there are no great and no small. If you were engineered for success and happiness, then the old picture of yourself as unworthy of happiness, of a person who was meant to fail, must be in error. Read this chapter through at least 3 times per week for the first 21 days. It's a big commitment. Let's write it down. Study it and digest it. Look for examples in your experiences and the experiences of your friends which illustrate the creative mechanism in action. Memorize the following basic principles by which your success mechanism operates. You do not need to be an electronic engineer or a physicist to operate your own servo mechanism, any more than you have to be able to engineer an automobile in order to drive one, or become an electrical engineer in order to turn on a light in your room. You do not need to be you do not need to be familiar with the following. However, because of having memorized them, they will throw new light on what is to follow. So, did I say we're on chapter 2? Yes, we are on chapter 2. So, read chapter 2 for 21 days, 3 times per week. Okay, I wrote it down. This is a challenge to everybody watching. Or you can also just re-listen to the audios. It's already there. So number 1, your built-in success mechanism must have a goal or target. This goal or target must be conceived as of already in existence now, either in actual or potential form. It operates by either 1, steering you to a goal already in existence, or by 2, discovering something that already is in existence. Number 2, the automatic mechanism is technological. That is, operates or must be originated to end results or goals. Do not be discouraged because the means whereby may not be apparent. It is the function of the automatic mechanism to supply the means whereby. When you supply the goal, think in terms of the end results, and the means whereby will often follow and take care of themselves. Let me just highlight that real quick. Aw, thank you, Jaden. I love you. I definitely agree. Do not be afraid of making mistakes or of temporary failures. All servo mechanisms achieve a goal by negative feedback or by going forward, making mistakes, and immediately correcting course. Number 4, skill learning of any kind is accomplished by trial and error. Mentally correcting aim after an error until a successful motion, movement, or performance has been achieved. After that, further learning and continued success is accomplished by forgetting the past errors and remembering the successful response so that it can be immediated. And number 5, you must learn to trust your creative mechanism to do its work and not jam it by becoming too concerned or too anxious as to whether it will work or not, or by attempting to force it by too much conscious effort. You must let it work rather than make it work. This trust is necessary because your creative mechanism operates below the level of consciousness, and you cannot know what is going on beneath the surface. Moreover, it is nature to operate spontaneously according to present need. Therefore, you have no guarantees in advance. It comes into operation as you act, and as you place a demand upon your actions, you must not wait to act until you have proof. You must act as if it is there and it will come through. Do the thing and you will have the power, said Emerson. So let's see. Joy said, I think that's something that holds people back. The fear of making mistakes along the way. 100%. And we're going to talk all about it right now. Joy, I'm going to put you on the screen. And we just finished chapter 2, guys. So as you can see, I highlighted a couple things that I want to talk about. And the way that we run our book club is we talk about each chapter as we finish it, and then we read the next one if there's time. And we have time today, so let's see how long our conversation goes for. Hi, Joy. How you doing?
Hello. How you doing?
I'm good. I am feeling good today. I saw a lot of what I read just now reminded me of The Secret, especially number 2 and number 5, right? Number 2 was talking about how the auto mechanism it must be goal oriented, right? And that it says not to worry about the how, because when you supply the goal and think of the end results, it means the means whereby, meaning how it will happen, will often take care of itself. And I think that is a really important idea and concept to digest, because a lot of the times, let's say you want to pursue something like moving to another state, and you're like, where am I going to get the money? How am I going to get there? I don't know anyone there. What's my life going to be like? And you just start thinking about everything that doesn't really matter, instead of just focusing on the fact that I want to live in another state. That's it, period. I'm doing it.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think that that also relates to what we talked about in the last reading, in terms of there being the universal mind that is there to where all the answers are held, right? And so when you have a, a deep foundation in your spiritual practice, there is no reason to worry about the how it's going to happen, because you know that there is an answer there, that the universal mind, however it is that you would like to resonate with that, some call it God, right? Some call it source, creator. So when you have that foundation, you know that there are things unseen working on your behalf that are going to support you in making that happen. Because if it's a heartfelt desire that came from inside of you, then it's yours to have. It's going to happen for you. But when we get bogged down with the worry of the how and the when, and that when, okay, but when's it going to happen? Because we get impatient as humans. When we get into that energy, that's when we start building in conflicting frequencies within that don't allow for the flow to happen as we would desire it to.
Right. And that is so true. Another part that I highlighted right in this beginning is that experiences has shown that when a person changes his self-image for a feeling or another reason, he realizes the truth about himself. And that's exactly that truth that we're referring to of, this world is not all that it is. You are a connection of source. You are like greater than yourself. And it even says it here that science has now confirmed what philosophers, mystics, and other intuitive people have declared. Every human being has literally been engineered for success by his creator. So you are set up to win. You cannot fail. So as soon as you have an idea, just go for it. Because every human being has access to a power greater than himself. And just knowing that and understanding that just is extremely liberating, because now you realize I can truly go after my dreams and do anything I want. And I love how the first thing you brought up was the fear, right? And a lot of the times we get convinced that this is the reality. This is what it is. You just have to follow the rules because that's how we've done it. And I think it's funny because, the world has been around for trillions, billions, millions. Nobody even knows how long. We try to assume and guess, but it's definitely longer than anyone that is currently alive, right? And then because we're learning from the adults that are currently alive, they are convinced that, well, I've been living this way all my life and this is how it is, not realizing that there's hundreds of thousands of people that's come before them and have understood these principles, right? In the last video, you brought up the Egyptians. They haven't been around for thousands of years. And if you go to their teachings, they knew all these things, right?
Yeah.
So listening to a 50-year-old, a 60-year-old, even an 80-year-old, they are like, newborn babies to the earth compared to these civilizations that have been around for thousands of years. And they may be very wise in what they do have experience with. But when it comes to living life, this is not all that is. It is greater than what we know currently.
So true,
yes.
So true. And I just want to say, I want to add to that is a result of conditioning. And when we realize that, wow, even our adults who raised us, even our elders have been conditioned, perhaps their conditioning has imprinted on me. And so perhaps I believe certain things that I do because I've been programmed by their beliefs, because they raised me. And I was in childhood, I was led to believe that they knew best, and they probably did know better in some ways, and of course everything they did was in love, out of care and protection for me, but maybe they didn't know everything. And now that I have an opportunity to learn differently and learn better for myself, why wouldn't I take that chance to clear out this old, outdated programming and do something new? But I'll tell you why. Because sometimes we feel guilty for separating from that. Sometimes it feels like a betrayal of family. Sometimes where it's easier to cling to what we feel familiar with because the unknown is very scary. But that's what we're talking about here. We're wired for success, so there should be no fear of the unknown because you can't get to what you haven't gotten unless you go through something that you don't know. Come on now.
Come on. Joy be coming through with the source. Legit,
Okay.
like, I
Real,
love sharing with you, man.
I love
And
you too, man. Real life channeling.
yes, and guys, remember, if you're watching this and you always want to become a part of the conversation, all you gotta do is become a member. It's absolutely free. Link is in the description. But the last point I wanted to touch on was the part that really reminded me of The Secret. It said that it is nature to operate spontaneously according to the present need. You have no guarantees in advance. It comes into operation as you act and as you place a demand upon it by your actions. You must not wait to act until you have proof. You must act as if it is there and it will come through. That anticipation to receive and not being attached to the outcome, right? Because let's say you really, really want something, but we all know in reality, you're not just going to meditate and be like, oh, it's going to come to me. No, you have to do something, right? Now, whether or not it is something that you have to believe in, right? It is something that has to support your idea that you're going to get your goal no matter what. And you cannot let, your actions be half-assed. They have to be 100%. I'm going for it. I know this is mine. And be willing to 100% receive what you are going for. Because the moment you doubt, the moment that you're like, I'm doing all these things, but I don't see the results fast enough, right? That going back to that, when will it happen? You throw off the whole entire chain of results. So when you want something, you have to act as if it's already yours and act like you got it right now. And The Secret really does go into detail on how that works, and I highly recommend reading it.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. And what just came up as you said that was, I think what gets in the way of acting as if you have it right now is that self-concept. Who am I to believe that I could have this? Who am I to pretend or act as if this is happening in my life right now when I don't even have it yet and I don't have any proof? And that's all embedded in this in the erroneous self-concept.
Right. But then if you go back to that second concept or the first concept, let me see. Well, it also says don't be afraid to make temporary failures because nothing lasts forever, ever. Everything is always changing every moment. But go into that part about every human being has access to a greater power than himself. Don't depend on yourself. That's really what that means. And if you read any spiritual text, that's what you're constantly reminded. You do not depend on yourself.
Yes, that is so true. But I think this negative bias that is so pervasive in the world just has people, even people who call themselves believers or people who, practice religion and different Abrahamic faiths and whatever it is, are just have a hard time really connecting to that because of what they see. And also because it's based in fear. Ooh,
yeah,
I said it.
She said, oh, I said it. No, it really is true because, you're told you will be damned. Yep. You're going to be judged. You're going to be punished. And when you read the words for yourself, it does not say any of that. It tells you if you don't do the work, you're going to experience pain. And it's because, duh, you over here acting a fool. You over here doing all the things that are going to harm you. Obviously, you're going to experience pain.
Yep.
But when we're listening secondhand, people put their own junk into it.
Yep.
They put their own opinions, their own beliefs, and you're not getting it from the source. So ask yourself, spend time with yourself, learn the truth about who you are, and that's just going to transform everything in your life.
Yes, sis, yes.
So I'm going to read for about 5 more minutes.
Okay.
We're going to jump into chapter 3 over here. I'm going to put Joy backstage, and then we'll see what comes up while we're reading that. So chapter 3 says imagination, the first key to your success mechanism. It says imagination plays a far more important role in our lives than most of us realize. I have seen this demonstrated many times in my practice. A particularly memorable instance of this fact concerned a patient who was literally forced to visit my office by his family. Remember, this is a plastic surgeon writing this, so what's going on there? He was a man of about 40, unmarried, who held down a routine job during the day and kept himself in his room when the work day was over, never going anywhere, never doing anything. He had many jobs and never seemed able to stay with any one of them for any great length of time. His problem was that he had a rather large nose and ears that protruded a little bit more than normal. He considered himself ugly and funny looking. He imagined that the people he came into contact with during the day were laughing at him and talking about him behind his back because he was so odd. His imaginations grew so strong that he actually feared going out into the business world and moving among people. He hardly felt safe, even in his own home. The poor man even imagined that his family was ashamed of him because he was peculiar looking and not like other people. Actually, his facial deficiencies were not serious. His nose was the classic Roman type, and his ears, though somewhat large, attracted no more attention than those of thousands of people with similar ears. In desperation, his family brought him to me to see if I could help him. I saw that he did not need surgery, only an understanding of the fact that his imagination had wrought such havoc with his self-esteem that he had lost sight of the truth. He was not really ugly. People did not consider him odd and laugh at him because of his appearance. His imagination alone was responsible for his misery. His imagination had set up an automatic negative failure mechanism within him, and it was operating full blast to his extreme misfortune. Fortunately, after several sessions with him, and with the help of his family, he was able gradually to realize that the power of his own imagination was responsible for his plight, and he succeeded in building up a true self-image and achieving the confidence he needed by applying creative imagination rather than destructive imagination. Creative imagination is not something reserved for the poets, the philosophers, the inventors. It enters into our every act. For imagination sets a goal, picture, with our auto mechanism, which our auto mechanism works on. We act or fail to act, not because of will, as is so commonly believed, but because of imagination. Okay. A human being always acts and feels and performs in accordance with what he imagines to be true about himself and his environment. This is a basic fundamental law of the mind. It is the way we are built. All right, I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to leave it there because that is powerful. Okay, so I want to talk about this imagination. We definitely brought it up in previous conversations,
Yep.
just explaining how you will perform in accordance, right? In like parallel and equal to the way you imagine the truth to be about yourself and your environment. So your life will only be as great as your vision is about it. And just understanding that you can use your imagination, your creativity to change your environment, to change yourself, and absolutely transform your experience. If you were to just think beyond what you see and consider that you can be more than who you are right now, and the possibility of change and increasing your success, you can do that just by creatively imagining it. It doesn't have to be real right now, right? The brain and the body cannot tell the difference between what is imagined and what is actually happening. So if you imagine it, it's going to be as equivalent as it actually happening right now. And that even goes back to that idea of moving and taking actions in accordance to what you want for yourself. Very, very powerful.
So powerful, and I love how everything is all connected. It really just matters like where you want to go that resonates with you and how you want to connect to it. Because this also comes up in human design. In human design, we talk about situational creativity versus fundamental creativity. And situational creativity is what we're used to. It's reactive, it happens in the moment. It's based on conditioning. It's based on using all the information that we have now right in front of us to find a solution. It's logical, it's reasonable, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense, so do that next. But fundamental creativity, it transcends conditioning. It's about those aha moments. It's about, being connected to that infinite source. It's really about what we're talking about here, the imagination. And it's more possibility oriented and kind of is unreasonable. Like those things is like, oh my goodness, why would you think that? But you know what? I know it's going to work type thinking. So it's all connected.
Oh, even how the chapter started off with someone who uses their imagination against themselves. Understanding that a lot of the times people will create scenarios in their head.
Girl, I just told someone, I said, when you switch how you're thinking, you'll see that it's been you all the time, and you would really understand how powerful you are. You're powerful already because what you're thinking about is creating what's happening right now. But if you switch it and reframe it, you'll start to see that it change, and you'll be like, oh my goodness, right?
Yeah, literally. And honestly, the most important part is understanding that your perspective will influence your experience, right? So a lot of the times, let's say something inconvenient happens, like you're running late somewhere. Instead of thinking like, oh, maybe I'm running late because I'm avoiding something terrible that's happening. Or maybe, the other person was running late and, I just needed to run behind a little bit so that way we can get there at the same time and, I don't have to be there waiting. But usually people, when they're running late, they're all stressed out. They're like, oh my God, I'm running late. And da, da, da. Like, they make the experience worse for themselves, and they're imagining all the terrible possibilities that can happen instead of the best possibilities that can happen. And that definitely goes back into that conditioning, into that feeling that, we are less than. We are not truly as powerful as we understand that we really are. Like, we don't understand how powerful we really are. That's what I want to say.
I think I wrote a post about that on Instagram one day. It says something like, people can convince themselves of anything except for how powerful they really are.
I love that. And I think that just taking the time to understand, really understand, and because there's levels to it, right? Maybe this is your first time ever hearing about any of this stuff, and you're like, what the heck? You don't know what you don't know truly, right? And now you're at a level where like, okay, I'm aware now that this exists, but it's up to you to really truly practice it, right? Because it's not that you just hear it once in a video or you read it once in a book and that's it. Like, you have to go deeper than that. You have to actually investigate, and you have to practice continuously to use this knowledge and to integrate it with who you are right now. And that is where you will see the results. That's why he recommends, reading that second chapter for 21 days, because for some people, this will be a big concept to digest. And Joy and I definitely have our own personal experiences for many years. And that's why it's so easy for us to be like, oh yeah, I get it. And like, just give you guys so many examples. So if this is something that's new to you, take it slow and just be willing to learn something new and to change the beliefs that you currently have, because obviously you're watching this because you want to change. You want to improve your circumstances and you want to improve your life. And it is more than possible. Okay. Do you want to add any last things today, Joy?
And oh no, sis, this was great. I just appreciate you for reading and holding this space for us and allowing us to have these conversations.
Of course. And I love having them with you and everyone that joins. And thank you so, so much for watching. If you've been watching, we'll pick up in our next reading live on chapter 3 on page 35 if you have the book. And if you don't, you can just listen along here. So make sure you do subscribe. And another thing, I will do a separate video of just chapter 2 by itself. So I'm going to post it right after this video. And that way you can listen for the 3 times a week for 21 days and actually stick to the challenge, okay? Because the point of doing this is not just to read and listen to videos. Like, you actually want to get results from doing this work, actually see progress in your life. So it is definitely a possibility for you to have results as long as you take action on doing the work. Okay, guys? So thank you so, so much for being here, and I hope you all have an amazing day.